After over 40 days of brutal warfare, both the Wardens and the Colonials knew that the end was near. But before the final ceasefire, there was one last thing the naval regiments in Foxhole needed to settle. This battle would not be for territory, not to win the war, but for honor and glory. This would be an all-out brawl where battleships clashed broadside to broadside, and all remaining naval ships were sent for one final fight. Hundreds of real players came together to crew these steel giants, fighting for hours in an unforgettable finale. Many ships went down, but only one side would sail away victorious. This is the story of the greatest naval battle in Foxhole history. With the war drawing to a premature close, the Warden Navy, Scum, Telephone, and several other Warden regiments reached out to colonial leadership with a bold proposal: one final naval battle in Stemma Landing. A member from the Colonial Regiment UCF answered the challenge and coordinated with other major colonial regiments like 1CMD, 420, SOM, and others. They would start this massive naval battle with 2 battleships from each faction facing off against one another. In Foxhole, battleships are the ultimate symbol of power, crewed by 20 to 30 players, and built through weeks of effort of gathering resources, crafting parts, and assembling the ship. They're among the most expensive and coordinated undertakings in the game. As the ships were loaded and fleets set sail for Stemma Landing, both sides knew they weren't just preparing for a fight. They were stepping into one of the greatest naval battles ever. This historic naval showdown would be split up into 3 parts. The first part would be the Duel of Giants. The battle started with the Warden battleship Callahan, operated by Regiment Scum, against the colonial battleship Titan, operated by 1CMD. They would have this epic duel on the north side of Stemma Landing and start this fight off broadside to broadside. As the first passing occurred, direct shots were fired from both sides, and with this, the battle had begun.
Try to shoot in direct fire mode, all guns to the left.
Yeah, push forwards.
All damage gone. The holes will come from,
Get ready.
from our left side.
Keep firing, aim for the guns. Keep going, keep moving.
Left to reverse.
Fire and shoot, fire and shoot, fire and shoot.
Holes were shattered and compartments were starting to flood. This moment was pure cinema. With the 2 giants gliding past one another, firing everything they had. Since the naval update arrived, this was the battle we were all waiting for. The Warden battleship, named after the faction's fearless leader, Callahan, takes inspiration from the design of pre-World War I capital ships, specifically the HMS Dreadnought. When engaging an enemy battleship, the Callahan must always attempt to keep its broadside to the enemy, due to the placements of its main guns, as its forward-firing arc is quite ineffective. The colonial battleship named the Titan draws its inspiration from the Allied powers in World War II, and is similar to the American Iowa-class ship. The Titan has a lot of power in its forward-firing arc, and should use a head-on position to its advantage when positioning. Each battleship can crew up to 30 players, each with a critical role in keeping the ship operational. Every ship needs a helmsman to steer the ship, cannoneers to fire the powerful 120mm and 150mm deck guns, and gunners to operate the smaller 30mm and 12.7mm turrets. You'll need a spotter who often acts as the ship's commander, and who guides the crew with a top-down view of the battlefield. Below deck, the engineers manage the engine, adjusting direction during combat such as going forward or reverse. And then there are the loaders, those responsible for keeping the guns supplied with shells. And last, the damage control team, or bucket crew, who constantly patch holes and bail water to prevent the ship from sinking. Running one of these ships is no walk in the park. It takes a lot of teamwork and real-time coordination. Because this fight had started from a broadside to broadside position, the Wardens held the upper hand from the very start. As the fight went on, the ships continued to fire everything they had. Below deck, a Warden player named Ahead of Money led the damage control team, and they took charge of keeping the ship afloat. After the initial barrage left them heavily damaged, he and his crew quickly rallied, patching up every compartment. As the 2 giants crossed paths a second time, another devastating volley of shells lit up the sea. The Colonial Titan's turrets were disabled almost instantly, and moments later, the ship slipped beneath the waters.
Fire, shoot, fire,
Dead.
shoot, fire, shoot.
They're dead.
Dead. Okay, let's go north, do damage
Go
con, and we'll
forward.
re-engage on the others.
The Warden battleship led by Scum would emerge victorious. In honor of his leadership, the player who was Captain Jag 307 was promoted to Admiral on the spot for their excellent leadership and hard work during the battle. The Warden player ahead of money had this to say about the first engagement of this historic battle. It was a really fun engagement, even if we had to constantly run around repairing holes. I want to thank the Colonials for their efforts, but Callahan prevails. End quote. After that, massive fleets flooded into Stemma. Colonial ships came from Origin to the east, and Warden ships came from Fisherman's Row from the north. Chaos erupted as a massive fleet battle began. Battleships, destroyers, and frigates clashed across Stemma in one of the most intense Foxhole battles ever. Hundreds of sailors were ready to fight until the end. The Warden frigate, known as Black Steel, draws inspiration from the French pre-Dreadnought era of naval design, while the Colonial destroyer, known as the Conqueror, is inspired by the American Burt-class ships. These ships are faster and more agile compared to the larger battleships, but that speed comes at the expense of raw firepower.
Hit us. This is a winning fight. Shoot along the length of his hull. Don't focus one compartment. Keep us at this angle. Damage control, how are we doing?
Repairing holes. Okay, so
So
far.
front,
Keep dark
front
firing.
is clear.
Engine right reverse, right reverse. Okay, full forward. Full
I got
forward.
hit in the face with a cutlass.
Okay, doing it for now.
One hole in the front.
I cannot cross on it. Okay, go throw.
Yeah, we're right. Keep us going on that right, and then go forward.
Yep.
Chase him down.
What's azimuth this time?
Hold up. We've got 3 frigates literally around us right now.
Naval ships from both sides clashed across the surrounding islands, turning the waters into a battlefield. One by one, ships were destroyed and sent sinking beneath the waves. Despite their victory in the first engagement, the Scum-led Warden battleship now faced a new threat, an incoming wave of Colonial naval forces. Still heavily damaged, they were quickly surrounded by 2 Colonial battleships and a destroyer, and they were taking fire from all directions.
Shoot too close. Don't shoot too close. Wait for them to go in front of us. Wait for them to veer off. Do not shoot too close. You'll put holes in us.
Warden player ahead of money once again led the damage control effort, ordering for bulkheads to be sealed, and focused all hands on securing the rear compartments, which was the ship's spawn room. With the situation critical, loaders switched over to bucketing. Other crew members switched roles and manned the rear guns, and had managed to sink the approaching destroyer. This second hard-fought victory allowed the battered battleship to retreat north to Nevish Line for repairs and to resupply. At one point during this part of the battle, 5 battleships were all engaging one another and broadsiding in close quarters. You couldn't see them all at once on your screen, so a player sent me this picture of what it looked like. One Warden Logi player had this to report about their experience at the battle. I unfortunately wasn't there for the start of the combat, but basically when I got home, I had tried to get on board the ship. Seeing that it was full, I realized the next best thing would be feeding the ship with ammo and fuel. So I went to Idalo, built myself a barge, and took a truck. Some other members of my regiment left out 120mm ammo south of Fisherman's, where I filled both the barge and truck, taking it down to Stemma to refuel. I kept watch as our frigate was doing battle with a Colonial destroyer. It looked like such an intense battle, but the coordination amongst our crew was spectacular. After they had defeated the destroyer, I knew it was my time to refill the ship. I piped up in Discord so the captain could hear I was delivering goods. It felt a lot more tense than it was, being in a zone active with Colonial large ships. And I'm in this small barge, but I got to the ship as quickly as I could. Unlocked the barge so the damage control crew and loaders could bring crates to load the ship. I was taking from the Logi truck to put in the barge, so they could take more. After I was empty, I headed back to Fisherman's Row to reload on 120mm shells and fuel. End quote. Elsewhere in Stemma Landing, a Warden frigate under the command of the Warden Navy found itself in a fierce clash with 2 Colonial destroyers. They eventually emerged victorious, sinking both. One player recalled a narrow escape from the chaos, crediting their survival to the timely arrival of the Warden Regiment telephone and their battleship, which had come to their rescue. Across the waves, the Warden Regiment KRGG battleship, commanded by I. Malter, charged into the storm. Flamethrowers, gas grenades, and artillery rained as they clashed with a Colonial battleship and 2 destroyers. They opened with long-range artillery and quickly closed in on the Colonial battleship for a brutal close-quarters combat. Maltar had this to say about the fight. The fight was intense, but we were well prepared. Our sailors carried gas and flamethrowers to engage at close range against the battleship. Victory was ours and the colonial battleship was sunk after a long battle." End quote. Though the colonial battleship had sunk, the 2 remaining destroyers went after the Warden battleship. Maltar and his crew managed to scare one away, but the second came from behind and delivered critical hits to all their compartments. The KRGG would not be sailing home today. Though they had sunk, Maltar remarks that it was a great experience even for their new sailors. As the chaos in Stemma landing continued, with fresh ships joining the battle as others were lost beneath the waves, another naval operation was unfolding elsewhere. Warden intelligence had confirmed that the Colonial Regiment 420 was launching a naval invasion, bringing 8 Longhook-class ships from Origin for a landing operation in Nevish Line, and thus began the last part of this epic naval warfare. The 420 Colonial Regiment had managed to sneak 8 large ships called Longhooks past all the chaos and launched a massive naval invasion in Nevish Landing. The Longhook is a deployable combat naval ship specifically designed to serve as a mobile spawn point and base, allowing players to spawn in, equip themselves, and transport themselves from the ship to the coastline. The Colonials successfully landed their ships on the shores of Nevish, quickly flooding in and capturing the relic base at Blinding Stone, securing their foothold on the mainland. The Warden battleship, victorious from the earlier duel, had managed to intercept some of these Longhooks. Though the Colonials would lose everything during this invasion, this is what one Colonial had to say about their experience. "At the end of the day, we're proud to say we reached the shores of Nevish Line, something we had never achieved before. Until then, we shall return once more." End quote. After several hours of battling in the waters, in the end, 4 battleships, 8 destroyers, 2 frigates, and 8 Longhooks were destroyed. For those unfamiliar with the immense time and resources it takes to produce these ships, I highly recommend checking out my video titled The Shipyard. I will leave a link to it at the end of this video. As the war concluded, players walked away with stories of glory, destruction, and legendary moments that will be remembered in Foxhole history. Though many ships were lost, the honor, coordination, and fair play between the factions stood out. Many players hope that this kind of event becomes a tradition at the end of every war. Huge respect to both sides for making this happen. And to every sailor, every gunner, and every bucket carrier, I salute you. None of this would have been possible if the developers hadn't announced the end of the war. While many of us didn't like that announcement, at least this great battle came out of it. As I've stated before, I hope we don't continue to see wars end through dev intervention in the future, but I do look forward to seeing more epic battles like this soon. One thing we should all be excited about this summer is the shift to the battles in the sky. I hope we get big brawls like this Navy one, but with planes. Airborne combat is going to change everything we know about Foxhole, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. Again, thank you to all the players that participated in this epic battle, and a huge thank you to all the people that reached out to me with their stories from it. If you would like to see a lot more from this battle, Blue Lamnite made a video about this battle as well. I will make sure to leave a link to that video in the description below. If you would like to see more videos on naval battles, I highly recommend you also check out another Foxhole creator called Bam Bam. I will leave a link to his channel in the description below as well. If you ever have any cool stories like this in Foxhole and want to see them talked about more, feel free to message me on Discord. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. I'll see you out on the battlefield. Cheers.